gentlemen, Star Wars enthusiasts and fans tuning in across the galaxy, welcome to the new revamped SWAU channel. I'm your host, Bryan, and I'm thrilled to welcome a phenomenal guest from the Mandalorian and Ashoka, the incredible Diana Lee Inosanto. I think that's how you pronounce your surname. I'm terrible with names.
You did it
Welcome.
perfect, Bryan.
Welcome
Thank
to
you
the
so
show.
much.
You are our very, very first guest on the SWAU channel. So I'm so honored. Me too.
Wow.
So we're going to talk a bit about the Mandalorian, which literally is the thing that kickstarted Disney Plus, I've got to say, in the US, well, around the world, basically. But you were brought into this world surrounded by inspiring individuals, from your dad to the great late Bruce Lee, who was your godfather. Did you feel that you were destined to be where you are now?
Did I feel if I was destined to be? That's an interesting question because I had always visualized and hoped and daydreamed as a child of being an actress. And I used to actually daydream being in Star Wars. I did. I used to have like
Wow.
literally these dreams of having a fight scene, going against a Jedi. I swear to God, I used to daydream about this as a kid. But to actually be fulfilling what I had always dreamed and loved, yeah, it's honestly, I still have to pinch myself every day that I'm participating in this amazing world with all these amazing characters, and it's just an honor. And I love Jon Favreau. I love Dave Filoni, and everybody else at Lucasfilm. They've changed my life, and every day I'm so deeply grateful. I really am.
There definitely are magicians there. You know, Dave and John. There's some sort of magic. They must have made a deal with someone, because whatever they touch turns to gold, I've got to say. So why this industry? What inspired you to get into Hollywood? Because I know that you did a lot of stunt work, which I was looking at your IMDb, and it is
Yeah.
crazy the amount of work you've done in this industry. Literally, we could spend 3-4 hours just listing them. So what inspired you to get into the industry?
Well, I always loved it from the time I saw actually my dad's sister, my Aunt Lilia, who had the stage name Lona Nye at the time. And she, in the 1970s, was a guest star on a show called Anna and the King, which was a spinoff of The King and I. And I was so mesmerized by her performance and so inspired. And then there was my godfather too. And I did, it was kind of disheartening to see, because I was kind of aware that it was still hard for them to find roles. But nonetheless, I loved the craft of make believe and acting. When I got older, I pursued, Hollywood via becoming of all things, a background actor on the show Moonlighting, which was on ABC. They showed that in the
Do you know
UK.
what? I saw that on your IMDb, and I was going to ask about that, because Moonlighting was one of my favorite shows when I was
Yeah,
younger. And I can't believe you worked on that as well as everything
yeah.
else.
That's how I got my SAG card, and I knew Bruce Willis and Sybil Shepherd, and he was always so awesome and friendly, because he knew I was studying with an amazing coach named Michael Shortlip at the time out of Broadway. And he would always ask me, well, how are your classes going? And we would talk about the craft of acting. But nonetheless, it was still very difficult, because there just weren't roles for my type. Here I am, this half Caucasian, half Asian woman, and people just didn't know quite what to do with me. They would go, oh, you look Spanish, which I do have some Spanish ancestry, but they're like, you don't speak Spanish. So it was really a real struggle. So I actually kind of had to put the acting thing on this, to the side for a while. And I had gotten married very, very young. I had a son with autism, actually. And it was really tough. So I really thought, oh my gosh, maybe I'll never be able to be on a set again. But I would meet my beautiful future husband, Ron Balicki, who was a student under my father. And we would train together. And at that time, he had met a producer named Todd Moyer who introduced him to a wonderful actor who many of you out there would know, Tamora Morrison, who'd become Boba Fett in the
Wow.
future. But at that time, Ron was training him for a film called Barbed Wire. And they were running sort of this fight scene in front of the producers. And they knew that they were going to get two men to do this fight scene with Tamara. One of them would be Ron. But they still hadn't casted for the other male character, and they just said, Ron goes, "Hey, honey, could you just come over here and just run the choreography, so they can see what it will look like?" And I did it, and I guess whatever the producer saw, they go, "Wow, your wife or your fiance really knows how to move, and would she be interested in playing this role?" And I was just so stunned. So stunt work was really something I kind of accidentally fell into. It's not like I really ever pursued it. And then the next call after I did Barbed Wire was immediately for Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And at that time, it was just to do the presentation with Joss Whedon and to just sell the concept itself. And I guess apparently, of course, it went through, and I ended up being Sarah Michelle Gellar's stunt double for like the first 5 episodes, I think it was. And it was kind of difficult in those days because they wouldn't put me on contract. So I had to always go where the work was. So if I wasn't doing stunt work, I had to teach martial arts. And it was quite a journey, because then later on I would go on to work on Walker, Texas Ranger and Face Off with John Woo. So my stunt career was picking up, but really at heart, I always wanted to be an actress. It just, to me, stunt work was what I did to, number one, support my son and have, health care. The other thing, it was to also, kind of stay in the game, because going back to college was like a luxury at that point to find another career. But I'd always hoped in my heart that something would break through. And I utilized the stunt world really as my film school. So every time I was on a new show, I was taking notes on the side, like, how this director, would compose things, how the producers would talk and navigate the different departments. And then eventually I would go on to take a chance and do my first independent film, The Sensei, and that's what changed my course in life.
Do you know what? The stunt world always fascinated me, because when I was younger, I actually did a few stunt jobs myself.
Okay.
I did get my nose broken during a scene. The person that it was all choreographed. The fight was choreographed. We was in a bar, and as the camera swept across us, the person that I was sort of fighting with just changed everything and ended up punching me in the nose. And I span round, hit the bar, got back up, I had blood pouring from my nose, and the director shouted "cut," but it was all fun and games. I didn't do it after that because I thought, no, this probably isn't for me. But you know what? Martial arts has played such a significant role in your life. How has it influenced your approach to the industry? Because obviously you've gone into stunts, but what about, going into Hollywood?
Well, because stunts was already part of the Hollywood industry anyhow, and it kept me sort of near the game, so to speak. Uh, as far as my martial arts heritage impacting my career, I will say that I inherited a philosophy through my dad and my godfather, and that was to empty your cup and to be open-minded, to always be curious. My favorite quote from my godfather is, "In primary freedom, one utilizes all ways and is bound by none." Meaning that, like, for instance, let's just take, for instance, the topic of music. If you're a rock star, does it mean that you can't also enjoy or even possibly participate in classical music or country music and intertwine that and blend that into your world, or rap or whatever? And it's the same thing with martial arts and definitely Hollywood, because I studied with different acting coaches and different acting styles. And I would learn to utilize that. And so really my process within Hollywood has really been, guided by the principles of Jeet Kune Do.
Mm.
And which is what my godfather coined. And it's a great term because everybody always thinks of it as a martial art, but really it's more philosophy, if anything.
Definitely. I mean, I grew up in martial arts as well. My dad was a karate teacher. He was a paratrooper in the army,
Oh,
and then
your dad was a
literally,
paratrooper? My dad was
yeah,
too.
in the English army.
My
Yeah,
dad, okay,
really,
yeah.
that is
Yeah, my dad
bizarre.
was he was the a paratrooper, Screaming Eagles. Yeah,
Oh,
101st. Yeah,
what?
that's crazy.
That is
Yeah.
crazy. But yeah, I mean, as a kid, all my friends were watching Saturday morning cartoons, and I was watching Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan, and all all those types of movies. Sadly, my dad has passed, but I have got his G. I've got his outfit. That for me, my favorite memories was, you know, as a small kid watching him just break planks of wood and
Ah,
I,
me too. Yeah,
I
that's
te-
what
I,
my dad.
you,
Same
yeah,
thing. That's
yeah,
so
all the time. And then I can
good.
remember his friend once did the 1 inch punch on me, and I had to
Yeah.
hold a telephone book in front of me against my chest because he didn't want to hurt me. Looking back
Yeah.
now, I was only 10 years old, so that's probably child abuse. But back then we didn't care, to be honest. But
So it's in play.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But you know what? I mean, when you started out, did you have a plan in place of what you wanted to achieve? You know, because you know, going into this industry, you know, did you have plans on winning awards, starring in certain projects, working with certain people?
No, I didn't, but for me, I had a strategy for sure because I was starting to study actors who had crossed over, and I noticed, like, from people like Kenneth Branagh, who's one
Hmm.
of my heroes, and John Favreau. I was looking at multi hyphenate actors that I realized you almost have to think like to make it like an entrepreneur because the traditional route in Hollywood was not working for me. I would go on so many auditions and be turned down. And then sometimes there weren't any auditions at all for me. And I just thought this is hard. But my mother reminded me of what my godfather had to do, and he had to make his own projects, and that's a scary thing because that means you have to think like a business person. But then again, there is a reason why we call the show business, right?
Hmm.
And so I started studying independent filmmakers like Robert Rodriguez, and I started realizing that seems to be another pathway into the industry is to take your chance to write, learn to direct, or get a friend that you trust to direct you, hopefully get just a team of talented people. So I was studying under like Dove Sims. I don't know if that name sounds familiar, but he was the one that would give workshops on independent filmmaking. So I was really trying to hone my craft and understanding of how to really manage an independent project. And plus, being already a stunt woman working on big budget films, I already knew, pretty much the flow of a set and how to navigate it. But when I told my husband, like, I really think I want to do this because I don't want to grow old and look back and go, I should have just tried. I should have just, I wonder what would have happened if I just would have tried to just do what people like my godfather did and just, direct my own project. And I was scared. I had never directed in my life. And and I actually had approached other people to direct me, but when I would hear them, I'm like, they don't understand that my film is a real serious piece. But I thought this was the best foot forward. And luckily, when I came out with the Sensei, it was difficult because it was during the Great Recession, and it didn't make any money. But however, it was one of those first films that were out there to be streamed, and streaming was still in its infancy. But the beautiful thing is 10 years later, this is what's how Dave Filoni would find me on Google. He found my trailer to my movie. And it's just wild.
Do you know what? That is a great segue, because I wanted to talk about, obviously, the Mandalorian, where it all started within the Star Wars universe for yourself. I mean, obviously, you came in the show as the Magistrate, and everyone loves a villain, and villains wouldn't. Well, Star Wars won't be the same without the villains, and I sort of gravitate more towards the villains because I think they're sometimes more interesting. They've got a lot more going on behind the eyes and backstory. So, how
Yeah.
did that, the role actually come about for you?
Well, so apparently Jon Favreau was really trying to determine who should be cast for the Magistrate, and they could have gone to a big name actress. They really could have, but it would have required to get a stunt woman. But for whatever reason, I guess John realized that that Magistrate should be authentically really a real martial artist, and he, I guess, suggested that to Dave, and Dave agreed. And so what I would learn is that he went down the rabbit hole of Google and typed woman martial artist, and up came my photo from the sensei, and he looked on the trailer and he goes, whoa, wow. And he started looking at my history. He goes, oh, wow, this is Bruce Lee's goddaughter. Oh, my goodness, this is Diana Inosanto's daughter. Okay, let's have her, I'll tell John I found her, and, this person, and we'll ask around and have her come in and read. And I got to tell you, when my manager called me up, my manager was pretty much first of all, he's my friend. And I really think it was more of a charity thing where he was managing me at the time, because he was primarily focusing on me being a hopeful director or a producer. But I could not get one theatrical agent to represent me, not one. By the time Hollywood got around to casting for my type, I guess that meant a younger type, because I got the feeling real quickly that I was just too old now. And so when I got the call from my manager, I thought he was pulling my leg, and I kept saying, Tarek, that's impossible. How would they know who I am? And he goes, well, somehow they know who you are, and you need to get ready. You have I think I had 3 days to really go over the script, and I had to sign an NDA, which made it really real for me. With my son with autism, it was great because I would run lines, because my husband was away in Italy doing a martial arts seminar. And I just remember, just over and over throughout 24 hours, I said, I don't think I'm going to get this role because it's Star Wars and it's such a huge franchise, but I at least will work so hard that they will at least go, holy crap, she can act, and thank goodness, because my theatrical background in theater, I applied a lot of my Shakespearean roots, and I was trying to channel, Caesar and Catherine the Great, by looking at different historical figures, because when you look at the sides, it reads to me more like a historical piece, or like a historical military movie. And I knew this woman was probably in some ways like a conqueror,
Mm.
and kind of ran the show. And the day I arrived to audition, I meditated, went in there, met an amazing team of casting directors, because they work as a team. And I was stunned that 3 to 4 days later, I got the call that I got the job. And I still didn't know what it was for. I really didn't, Bryan, And I wouldn't really know until a month later, when they called me to come in to maybe meet with the stunt team to go over choreography. And I thought, oh, okay, it's going to probably be like an acting stunt job, real something quick. And I had Jon Favreau there to greet me. And I'll never forget that moment, because John has always been one of my heroes. I mean, he had me at Swingers,
Oh,
his show, movie that I
great
love.
movie.
Yeah, amazing movie. And I'm like, I'm being escorted by Jon Favreau, who's giving me a tour of the volume, and I'm having this out of body experience, which was just incredible. And he takes me right to Dave Filoni, who happened to be in that moment talking to Robert Rodriguez, which was just mind blowing to me, because I had studied Robert, and then I had made one appearance on his reality network show called, God, what was it? It was not Fortune Fire. It was Men at Arms. And I just thought, this is incredible. This is this isn't happening. Is it happening to me? And that's when Dave joked and said, I bet you're wondering how we found you. And then that's when he told me the Google story. So there
Wow.
you have
Wow. Wow. Little did you know that your
it. Yeah.
character would get extremely large and we would find out a lot more about her. So I mean the one thing I like about the magistrate is how she talks, I've got to say.
Oh,
It's just
yeah.
the way she's presented. I like characters that are not over the top, that are sort of sort of suppressed a bit, because I think it makes you stand up and listen a bit more. I mean, what went into actually the character? I mean, how much was on paper, and how much was it you bringing to the character?
Uh, oh, that's a lovely question. Thank you for asking. So I definitely held on to the initially my instincts the first time around for when I auditioned. I kept those elements because
Mm,
I realized that's what got me the job. But then when I met with Dave Filoni and actually Pedro, actually, because I had to read on, I'm reading, I'm reading, sitting at a table reading with Pedro, and I'm listening to them talk about the scene, and later I would learn that. A little bit more about her background, but I didn't even know her name was Morgan Elsbeth at the time. I just thought she was the
wow.
magistrate, honestly. But I knew the moment I read the sides, like, oh, there's this guy named Thrawn in this. Oh, that's interesting. Who's Thrawn? And then like, oh, wait a minute, the Clone Wars, Rebels, of course. I used to watch, Rebels. I mean, I used to watch them with my kids, right? And then I started doing a deep dive. I started looking up Timothy Zahn's books. I
Mm.
would read Timothy's books. Heir to the Empire was really important to me because I thought at least I thought I could get a pretty good idea of the kind of people that Thrawn would have around him. And then I just, again, I started really, diving in at looking at historical characters. And I had this feeling that I would stick with more of a mid-Atlantic accent and just kind of, do it that way, and it seemed to work. And, of course, when you're working with Dave and John, there were like little adjustments I would have to make, but it was just a great role to play, and I loved being with Rosario on the set and having this honor to be by her side as we were introducing her as our live action Ahsoka.
I mean, obviously, joining the cast in season two must have been quite daunting, because, it must be quite a closed sort of cast where everyone's getting on. I mean, how was that experience getting on set for the first time? Was you greeted with open arms?
Yeah, yeah. Well, so our Bo-Katan, Katie Sackhoff
Katie, yeah.
was yeah, was the first one to greet me on the set. I mean, I felt like this little lost girl in a cafeteria. I'm just standing there in the makeup and
I
hair
need a friend.
trailer, and then she's like, "What's your name?" "I'm Katie," and I'm just
Oh,
like, "Oh, she's so lovely and friendly," and everybody there was just so gracious and kind, and immediately I got this feeling like it was sort of this family environment. And I mean, I fell in love with the hair people, my hairdresser Maria. I mean, Alexi, who was my makeup artist. I mean, I just loved so much everyone, and I just felt for the first time like this was home for me. To be honest with you, I've been on a lot of sets, but this was a real unique experience for me. And I felt it was a really good, healthy environment because I've been on some toxic sets, let me
mm.
tell you, in the past as a stunt woman that weren't pleasant for me at all. And I won't mention their names, um, but this was great. This was a whole other level of professionalism. And I will say, by the time we got to Ahsoka, I mean, even more so with the pandemic, I think there was a special bond that we all had. And I refer to everybody there as my ohana, which means family in Hawaiian, and
Mm.
I do mean, sincerely. They're
Oh,
just everybody, just family to me.
that sounds so, so nice. I mean, I've got to talk about the end fight on the Mandalorian for yourself, because that fight is so elegant, and the choreography in it is just amazing. It really, really is. I mean, what
Right.
was that like to shoot, and then you seen the finished article? I mean, how surreal was that?
It was incredible because on the day that I had to shoot that fight scene, it was a little bit nerve-wracking. I had already been given the choreography a good month in advance. So with my husband, Ron Balicki, we would train it. So I was ready, but there were still pockets of it that I knew hadn't been solidified. And the team was just wonderful under Ryan Watson at that time. And the two choreographers were mainly Justin Williams and another gentleman, and I'm blanking out right now, so forgive me. But they had put together the choreography, and the beautiful thing is they were students of my dad, or they were students of my dad. It was really weird. I felt, again, pretty much at home. They knew my attributes as a martial artist, and yet I could still say, you know what, I think I would like to change something here, but they were great about it. I had a little bit to say about the way to disarm the lightsaber. I had definitely some say on the beginning. In the original choreography, there was supposed to be more flowery stuff, and I said, no, that's not Morgan's character. This is a woman that would, hold her ground, and she would absolutely wait and see and kind of almost like this cat and mouse kind of thing, to kind of stalk Ahsoka and try to feel out her energy. And so they were absolutely great about, allowing, anything I wanted to put in. And then what I was stunned is on the day that we did the fight scene, I did a little bit of improvisation, like with the spears, not that spear, but my Beskar spear. And I actually was surprised they kept it in the show, anytime I wasn't making contact with Rosario, I would try to work the spear in a certain way. But, what was really amazing about that day was that George Lucas was there.
I read that. That must have put so much more pressure on you shooting
Oh
that
my
day.
gosh. John Favreau, again, always giving me, escorting me. And he's taking me right up to George Lucas and Kathleen Kennedy and Doug Chang. And I'm just going, oh my God. And there's Dave Filoni looking, at the screen at the monitor. And I'm just going, this is, excuse my voice, truly an out-of-body experience. And it was so wonderful to quickly chat with George about, he was, he gave me, he was telling me about Kurosawa, and how he approached his fight scenes. And, it was just wonderful and beautiful to get his insights and just to meet these legends, at Lucasfilms. It was just wonderful, Bryan. It really was.
Do you know what? I can just imagine George coming on set and everyone just parting, away like the sea. You know what I mean? He's like the oracle. And people bowing, I've got to say. So that must have been an incredible day, though, not only to film that, but also to have George there. So The Mandalorian continues, but yet we didn't realize that very, very soon we would see Morgan again in Ahsoka. I mean, when did you know that you were going to, explore the character more in this new series? I mean, did you know why you were filming The Mandalorian?
No, I was, like I said, I didn't even know my name was Morgan Elsbeth until the night the episode aired. And I heard, Rosario say my character's name and then her back history, like she had conquered these worlds or she was a real troublemaker in the galaxy, right? And I was just like, what? Nobody told me this. I didn't know she was a Night Sister. That I knew, but I didn't know how this was going to play. And of course, I was always trying to be good about keeping secrets and I had to keep this a secret during the pandemic. And it was so difficult. It was so hard because, prior to being on lockdown, I could hear like everywhere everybody was talking about the Mandalorian, grandmas, little kids, moms and dads. It was just all around me in my community. And I'm like, I just got done filming on there and I got to keep this a secret. But it's interesting. What was so magical is the night that episode aired, the Jedi episode, was also my godfather's birthday.
Oh.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
Isn't that wild? Yeah. And so I thought that was rather strange in a way, and a beautiful coincidence, this wonderful coincidence that it was his birthday as well. So, but as far as knowing when I was going to be cast for Ahsoka, it wasn't until like 2021. I really didn't know. And I cried. I absolutely cried. And ironically, our community here in California had opened up a little bit so you could go to Disneyland, and I was at Disneyland when I got the call from my manager that they are interested in you, and there's this project called Ahsoka, and they want you. And I'm like, what? And I screamed so loud, and I started tearing up. I was just so happy. Because Bryan, you got to remember, I'm technically middle age, and to be able to get this huge break in my career so late in life is just, it's just a miracle. It really is.
I mean, in Ahsoka, you're not alone. You've got a great cast around you, and there's some more villains like Balin and Shin. I mean, what was it like on set? What was the chemistry like? Because, having more villains on set, it must have been great fun.
Oh my. Yeah. Well, let me tell you, I love my Ohana. I miss Ray Stevenson
Mm.
so much. And of course, I had Ivana there with me, and I just, I will tell you, it was just amazing to have these people, and then Lars coming into picture later in episode 6. So it was so much fun, because they are the kindest, loveliest people you could ever meet, and um, I will tell you this, Ray Stevenson, he's like the perfect dance partner. When you're in a scene with him, he just elevates you on a whole other level. And I will always forever remember Ray and his contribution. He's just a magnificent actor, just incredible.
You know what? I met Ray quite a few years ago, and I've got to say, just to listen to him, he's so sort of poetic in the way that he talks, and
That's
he's
right.
he's so nice with people as well. He's got all the
Very,
time in the world, and he will be dreadfully missed, but always remembered. He has done
yeah,
such good work, and that's the great thing, I suppose, with this industry, that people will be remembered. They've got their mark. What I think the line from Gladiator, "What we do in this life echoes in eternity," sort of thing. And
yeah.
I
Great
believe in
line.
that. I totally believe that we need to make the most of this life so we're remembered by others in the future. And Ray
Absolutely.
definitely will do. And he plays an awesome character in this show. He really
Oh, what
does.
a
He's so
magnificent.
commanding, and he's just fantastic. But he would definitely
Yeah.
be remembered. Um,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, and
the
so funny to talk about poetry because that was my
mm,
nickname for him, was Poetry in Motion. I would
was it
say, "Hey,
really?
Poetry." That was my nickname for him on the set, and then Ivana, I would call her Heart and Soul, because she has such a beautiful heart and her soul just lovely. Yeah, they're just incredible human beings.
Next, you're going to tell me you've all got matching tattoos. But a bit like the hobbits on Lord of the Rings. But you know what? I've got to say, the sets on these shows are breathtaking. They really are. They put everything in it, and obviously you've got the volume that adds so much more. What was it like stepping foot on these sets? I mean, did they take your breath away? Have you got, a favorite set that you've been on, or a favorite scene, within the
Yeah,
volume?
gosh, there's so many amazing moments in Ahsoka for me. Yeah, the volume is incredible. Absolutely. Like when I go when Morgan goes to finally meet the great mothers, and now she's not alone as a night sister. That
Mm.
was incredible. But I also have to say, there's the moment of with Lars actually when he were first seeing Thrawn, and that was on a completely different stage, and it was a huge, and I'm talking huge, green screen. Like think of a huge football field in a way, and I had no idea. And Jen was directing that particular episode that it would look the way it looked in episode 6. It was just that that episode is actually probably my favorite episode because we're introducing the great mothers and we're introducing Thrawn and Morgan's seeing the roots of her ancestry right there. I
I
just
mean,
loved it.
obviously, your story arc in Ahsoka is incredible. I mean, how far in advance did you know what was in store for your character when you started filming? Did they give you the script for the whole season, or was it a case of episode by episode?
Yeah, I did have an idea of the overall the arc of the season for sure, but then there were some changes, and I loved like when Dave said, "How do you feel about Morgan going through this transition, almost like, where she would have her night sister tattoos?" And I thought, that's brilliant. I love that, because I've heard, in comments out there in the zeitgeist of the social media, they're like, how come she doesn't have more tattoos, blah blah blah. But I love that there is this cultural kind of graduation in the community for the Night Sisters, and how she would finally get her final marks, I guess. I guess that's what it is. And yeah, I was so thrilled about that, really thrilled.
And the end scene again for you, you're fighting Ahsoka again. Incredible, incredible. You're surrounded by the troopers. I mean, what was that like to step face to face once again with Ahsoka?
Yeah, I
What
was
was
a
that
little
film
nervous with
like?
doing that fight scene because this time the stylization would change somewhat because Ming Q had been brought aboard to be our choreographer, and I love Ming. And doing that fight scene helped reacquaint me with my wushu roots, which I hadn't done in years since like Buffy the Vampire, to be honest with you. So at my age, I was a little nervous. I had some prior injuries actually, but I thought I'm looking forward to this. And then I had Natalie Padilla, who was my stunt double as well, and she's part of this journey with me. So I have to give kudos to her because it's like being a football team when you do these fights. My memory, and people have different memories, but my memory was that in total, the days that we shot that fight scene, because there was supposed to be the lower area and then the upper chambers outside, and it was total, from what I remember, was almost close to 6 days with a 1 day break. And that fight scene was tough because we were there for long hours, 12, 15, 16 hours. I mean, it was a tough ride for me, in many ways. And so thank goodness I had Natalie to do some of the heavy lifting. It just, thank goodness. But yeah, kudos to Ming, who did such amazing choreography. She's just such a lovely person. And you might remember Ming from I think it was on Obi-Wan. She opens up the whole scene when she's rescuing the foundlings.
Oh wow, yeah. Oh, that's.
That's
Do you
me.
know what? Do you know what? I think we need to keep give a bit more sort of recognition, I suppose, for the stunt teams and the
Yeah,
choreographers, because us as an audience, we don't really get to realize that actually there's so much work that goes on
yeah,
behind the camera as well. There
yeah.
really,
I'm so glad
really
you're saying
is.
that. Because and I get that from being a stunt woman myself in my younger years, and I want to say too for Mandalorian, I also had Lauren Kim, who was also my double, and she was a student under my father. So to me, it was like having my little sister by my side. So it's like my feet are aching. Can you get over there? I used to make jokes like, "Okay, you want to come over and do my dishes at my house as well?" Like, just making jokes.
Yeah, why
But
not?
yeah, why not? But you just, yeah, I mean, there needs to be definitely more recognition of our stunt people
Mm.
because they put their bodies through a lot. Also, the other dance partner I had was Michelle Lee, who was Rosario's double as well. And so we hung out quite a bit. Now we're all kind of like dim sum buddies. We go out for Chinese food and when we can. And yeah, just an incredible team.
I mean, I wanted to ask, and I've been looking behind you. You know, have you managed to liberate? I think that's the politest word to call it. Liberate any props or costume pieces from the show. I mean,
Oh, I
obviously,
wish.
you won't get into
I
trouble,
wish.
I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No. No, they're so guarded. No, we are not allowed to bring the props home at all. No costumes, nothing. And it's for good reason. You need to kind of have those protections out there. Even with our scripts, we're supposed to destroy them or hand them off to be destroyed right away. So there are definitely some some very strict protocols to protect, the show and to protect each and every one of those episodes. But we definitely can, find somebody to, make a cosplay outfit, I guess, or something. I don't know. Like, for instance, I have this one, but that's definitely not from the show. But my husband had worked on Boba Fett, and he was like the one-eyed Tusken Raider, when they did the fire
Yep.
staff of Tamora. And
I love
yeah,
I love that how you said that's definitely not from the show. Honestly, it's not from the show. It's a replica. Um, just in case they contact you and go,
yeah,
yeah.
just in case, that's not real.
But you know what? You're fine if anyone tries to enter your house without your permission. That's all I'm saying. The fact that you've got spears in the back. I mean, I've got 4 cats and you've got 3 spears. So, my bet's on you, to be fair, with that. But before we bid farewell, I mean, what does it mean to you now being cemented in the Star Wars universe? Because now you are going to be forever sort of remembered for many, many moons to come. I mean, what does that feel like?
It is such an honor and a responsibility. And I am amazed because I get now the opportunity to meet fans all over the world who love this universe like I do. And it's a true honor. It has opened doorways for me. I feel like I can be truly a force for good and help people where I can. I have people that visit me at Fan Expo and other Comic Con type events, and I love when they share with me their stories. I have a wonderful and a beautiful dotted line to the special needs or autism community. So I have people that visit me there. Some people know that I come not only from a martial arts family, but a military family as well. And they'll say hello and thanks and thank you for making this. I mean, it's extraordinary. The people I'm meeting. I love it that I had men and women both who are middle age and older, and they're like, we can't believe you had this breakthrough later in life. And that's so inspiring for me because now I know that I could shift gears and possibly have another road to take in my life. And so if my example serves as a way to help maybe inspire people that it ain't over till it's over, and it's really just incredible privilege. That's all I can tell you. And I every day know what I have. I'm grateful in my heart, and I sometimes tear up about it because I just it's been such a long road to get here, and here I am. And yeah, that's all I can share it.
Do you know what? Some people always use the word lucky. I'm lucky to be in this position. I always see it as deserving. If you put the hard work in, if you keep, doing what you're doing, you will get these great things happen. And
Yeah.
it's onwards and upwards. And I look forward to seeing everything that you do in the future, Diana. Thank you so much for coming onto the show. For everyone watching, don't forget to hit subscribe, comment, and like the video. And don't forget to visit SWAU.com. And as the Mandalorian would say, this is the way. But Diana, thank you so much for coming onto the show.
Thank you. Bye, everybody. Thank you, Bryan.